Okay, here we're going to look at some Excel stuff today. We're going to review some of the basics and we're going to learn how to do some math and use multiple worksheets. Okay, so here we go. First thing we want to review is how to merge cells. Simply click in several cells, select them all at one time, go up to your ribbon near the center and you've got a Merge and Center button. Click on it and those cells become one cell. Another thing we want to look at is cell width. Right now, if I type these 4 words into cell A1, it looks fine. I can see them all. But as soon as I go into B and type something, notice now you cannot see all of the words that are in cell A1. So I have to adjust the width of the column. So I go up here between A and B. Notice how my cursor changes here. I just click and drag to the right near the end of my words or so, and there I've got it. And now if I click on this to select it, notice when I'm clicking, I'm not clicking on the edge, I'm not clicking on the fill handle to select the cell, I'm just clicking once on the letters, or if it's empty, once inside the cell. But once I click on here to select it, then I can come to my center button and center that. Okay, and then you can see how that's set up. Okay, and again, just to review, if I want to select some cells here, like that, notice I'm in cell A, or in row A, until I select 2, but because I merged 3, when I go down here, then my selection gets much larger, and I can't get narrower because cell A3 is very big. And if I fill this with yellow color, it looks something like that. Don't worry about the lines seeming to disappear if you change the background color of a column or row. When you go to print, you have an option for a spreadsheet. It's under Page Setup, and Page Setup is the same place. You can go to File and Page Setup to choose between Portrait and Landscape. Set your margins, top, bottom, left, and right. And if you want to put a header into there, like we did in Word. But when you click on the Sheet tab, there's an option here for grid lines. And if you check that, when you print, those lines are going to print out, even if you don't see them. When you go to do a preview or you're looking here. So I'm just going to undo that color for a moment. Actually, I'm going to undo several of these things so that I'm back to a normal spreadsheet. One of the things we want to look at, this is what's called a worksheet. The entire Excel file is known as a workbook, and a workbook can contain many different worksheets. You may remember that from elementary school. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make my Excel not full screen. That'll make it a little easier for you to see some things. The easiest way to add another worksheet is to simply go towards the bottom of your screen, and you're going to see a little plus sign. You're also going to see the word sheet down here. And if you only have one worksheet, it's going to say sheet 1. You can rename these very easily by double-clicking on the letters and simply typing and then hitting return when you're done. When you need another worksheet, you just click the plus sign and it will give you a second one. And you can, again, rename that just by double-clicking on the letters. You can also right-click and tell it to rename. And a nice thing about having multiple sheets, you can transfer data between them. So like if I were doing a monthly budget or something like that, I can fill in a value on my December sheet and use that value in my January sheet. For instance, if I switch to January and I put in a formula like equals, and then I go back to December and click on that particular cell, notice I get the marching ants, hit enter. Now that value is carried over from my December sheet into January and I can use it. And that will automatically change. If I go back here and say, oops, it's not 32, it's 3,300, when I change that, it changes in the December or in the January sheet automatically. So that's kind of neat that you can transfer data back and forth between your worksheets. If I were creating like a checkbook or something where I was balancing debits and credits, and December ends, I can take the total from here into the next month and start with that. So that's a pretty easy way to do it. Remember, and this should also take formatting, but we'll just double check here. If this were money, I would go up to my home tab. I would go up to format at the top. You may have noticed that there are shortcut buttons on your toolbar, on your home toolbar, where you can format the cell without searching for that menu choice at the very top. I have my screen cut off so you can't see my choice at the top, so I'm going to show you the alternate way. But you would go up to the menu format at the top, choose format cells, and then you can select. Right now this is a general format. If I select from the drop down, I can go right to currency, and it puts in the $ and the decimal point. Now in order to get this formatting into my other sheet, I'm going to use the format painter. Again, on my home toolbar, it's that paintbrush. I have this cell selected. I click on the paintbrush. I come down here to January. I click on this cell. And that takes the exact same format from one sheet to the next. Okay, so there is something that you can do pretty easily. So now we're going to take a look at an example from your checkbook assignment that you're working on today. You're going to have a column for debit, a column for credits, and a column for balance. These two are going to be set numbers. Debit, take out of your account. Credit, put money into your account. So you're adding credits, subtracting debits, and this is how we're going to do it. So you start with the balance. Let's say your first paycheck is $1,200. We put in $1,200. And then let's say we've got a $25 bill. Let's say we go to McDonald's and there's a bunch of us and we pay, so it's $45. And then you buy a scratch-off lottery ticket and you win $25. Let's make it 50. Okay, so we've got two debits and we've got one credit. So what we're going to do is keep what's called a running total, so that as we put a debit in, our balance will add or subtract that. So we're going to do this. We're going to go to the next line, which is our debit here. And we're going to start with some math. You always start math in Excel with an equal sign. So hit equals, and I'm going to take the previous balance, and I'm going to put in a minus sign to subtract because this is a debit. I'm going to come over here and click on the debit. Now notice it automatically puts my mathematical equation and it color codes things, so I can easily look at this to see if it's doing what I want. It is, so I hit return, and it subtracts 25. So I'm going to do the same thing here because it's another debit. Equals the balance above it, minus sign, the value of the debit, and hit return. Okay, now that's $70. I can do that math in my head, so I know that it worked. Right? 1,200 minus 70 is 1,130. Now I've got a credit, so I have to add, but I do the same thing. Equals, click on the previous balance above. This time I'm hitting the plus sign, clicking on the credit, and hitting enter. And there's my up-to-date balance based on these three transactions. Now again, if I want to take this balance, and this is what you would do at the end of the month, you would take that last balance and go to the next month to start. So I would select, that would be the one that I want to take. I go to my next sheet, I click equals, I go back to December, I click on the last balance and hit enter. And it will pull that value across. So now, if this were now January's bills, I can start subtracting from this number. And I keep an accurate running total. That's what your assignment is going to be today. Watch this video if you have questions or concerns. There are examples in here. Hopefully I didn't go too fast. but you can rewind it and watch it again if you need to. This math in this assignment is not going to be AutoSum, so please make sure that you fill in the correct equation to get full credit. Good luck.